Hello to each of you. I am hopeful that you are doing well the inside out and always welcome to another segment of Conversations in the Nick of Time. I am your host, Nikki Roach. Those who are new to this platform, welcome. We are delighted to have you. This is like a virtual classroom. I am an educator at heart, an advocate, an author, mentor, and I could go on, but from my journey, I understood that there was so much information I was gleaning from so many amazing, talented, anointed people that were in my spaces. And I had to find a way to get these individuals in front of you, right where you are. And you just may be one of those individuals. But I'm so excited about my guest today. But just a little housekeeping. This virtual classroom basically is a space where we talk about leadership excellence, leadership accidents, and also leadership equity, and how we can lead from a place of inclusion. And it is just so amazing how we all have a different point of view, but at the end of the day, there are ways to find synergy, collaboration, and partnership, because that is something that's needed. And then community and teams, which is an angle that we're going to dive into on today. Want to thank Sparkman Publications, KSTL Jubilee 690, which is headquartered Louis, Missouri, right in the Midwest, and Covenant Exchange for giving continuous support to this platform to make it possible. And then to each of you for lending us your ear each and every week as we bring you these amazing individuals. Make sure that you check us out if you want to at nikkiroach.com, and you can find out more information, not only about the show, possibly being a guest, but also for our guests that we have on the show. You can find out more about them, because I know we get to rambling and we get so deep in the conversation and the time goes by so fast. Well, let me introduce my guests for you today. Miss Angela Lewis. Miss Angela Lewis is the owner of A.L.A. Public Relations, and she is a former professional basketball player, championship winning coach, and author. Angela garnered her significant media attention through her high-level sports experiences. She has been interviewed on every type of media platform while rising to the top to become a professional athlete. With a desire to inspire youth, Angela has published 4 books, has contributed to 3 others. She helped other authors publish their books, so serving as a mentor in another capacity, and they needed assistance gaining media placement and speaking engagements to share their messages. She filled in a blank for them and continuing to do so, not just within the United States, but you'll learn more about this, that this has now gone global. As a result, A.L.A. Public Relations was created to help clients build brand awareness, connect with other target audiences, and engage with new customers. The formal and very abbreviated formal introduction, but let me plug in my my personal admiration for Angela and her giftedness in her space of this contribution to this conversation and this platform. It is just amazing. It was over years ago, if not almost 15, that we crossed paths through some mutual friends, and it was instant connection in regards to like, oh my gosh, we've got so common. And it was just and orchestrated for us to connect, because her ability to take her athleticism and translate it into the need and the effectiveness of a leader was just mind-blowing. And so for me, I'm like, I have to get to know her in a different way, in a deeper way, in regards to how we can collaborate. And she said yes, without any hesitation, to serve on one of my very first panels. Oh my gosh, that was like 15 or so years ago. And with another amazing group of sisters, we have to try and recreate that moment a little bit in the near future. And we've not lost contact. We've had some moments of quiet as we have been evolving and blossoming. And we've connected on, family and parents and taking risks we always circle back around, and I just want to take this time to give you some virtual flowers to say well done. This journey has not been easy, but I look forward to hearing from you. And now you're in, I made Louis because you've lived a number of places. Now you're in Medellin, Colombia. Did I say that right?
That is correct. You got it. Medellin, Colombia. Absolutely.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that we could reconnect, and I have just the same level of love, respect, and admiration for you. And we always have incredible conversations, and considering what has occurred the past few years in both of our lives and all of our lives, I know this conversation will be different than before.
Wonderful, wonderful. So tell us a little bit outside of what I've said, who is Angela Lewis today?
I am someone who loves connecting people to opportunity, who values authentic relationships, and who really wants to help other people win. I think as a coach at my core, I'm always looking for ways to help improve the lives of others, but then also understanding the importance of constant learning, because when you're a coach or a leader, that is the greatest skill set that you have, the willingness to learn, the level of humility to know that you don't know everything, and the deepest desire to ensure that the people you work for are the ones who are excelling.
You said a mouthful in regards to is a place of humility, because we are, even in the system, me being in higher ed, it's amazing how we are wanting to create leaders for tomorrow, to be innovative, to new things, to tread in new spaces. And it comes down to change, but it comes down to learning. But we're taught to comply, but yet challenged and to actually draw outside the lines. But that comes with that continuous learning that you just mentioned. But there's that battle, right? The internal battle.
It is the internal battle, because you want to feel like right? We have this deep desire to have it all figured out. And when we don't have it figured out, there's this level of discomfort. A significant level of discomfort, because you don't want to be wrong, or you don't want to be humiliated, or you don't want to seem like you don't know what's going on. But if we can shift from I need to have it all figured out today to I'm going to have it figured out over time, and there's a long game of skills that we can build upon, then I think we have an opportunity to help leaders relax under pressure.
Yeah. Speaking of, you have experienced some pressure.
Yes.
I want to start off just kind of exposing you a little. And you have made some major decisions and somewhat become a globe trekker to continue this new season of blossoming. How did you land in Colombia?
I landed in Colombia because I had a moment of deep reflection, and this was before COVID.
Okay.
And so I'll backtrack. Right after graduating college, I played professional basketball in Germany. So I already had an international living experience, but over the years I moved back, life happened, but I knew that deep inside I wanted to live internationally. So let's fast forward to 2019. I had this really in-depth conversation with a friend, and she said, "What is your ideal day?" I started thinking and dreaming about what my ideal day was. And I was struggling at the time, like really, really struggling.
Struggling in what way?
I had a really challenging situation with family. I was going through just evolving, trying to be an entrepreneur, like being an entrepreneur, but not really generating the income to sustain my life. So I'm doing everything from Uber, Shipt, like I did it all in order to like try to make this dream happen, which was a different business than I had now. And I'll get to that in a second. So I was doing all of these different things. And December 2019, I'm talking to a friend. She said, "What is your ideal day?" And I wrote down my ideal day, and it was full Nikki. I was going to fly here and do this and fly there and do that and this camp and this, you know, I was training basketball, which I love. I absolutely love inspiring young women. At that time, I felt like that was all that who I was and what I was doing was more than what I truly understood. I was doing too much. I think that's the most basic way, right? I was doing a lot of things.
Too much that distracted you from what you really wanted.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so she asked what was my ideal day. I wrote down my ideal day, and it was a lot. I was doing all of the things, right? And then I looked at it, we talked through it, and then I started crying, complete breakdown, because it was really far removed from what I really wanted. And so we had a conversation about it. I wrote down ideal day, and it wasn't the things that I'm going to do, but it was how I was going to feel and how I wanted to be. And that was a big shift. And so who I wanted to be and how I wanted to be superseded what I wanted to do. So with that being said, I said, okay, I want to wake up and be relaxed. I want to see the mountains every day. I want to be able to live in a walkable space where I can go outside and say hi to the people at the local coffee shop. And I could feel it, right? Before, I was just doing things and checking things off the list. Like my first ideal day scenario, it was just a bunch of checks on the list. My second ideal day scenario was full presence of everything that I was experiencing in my life. And none of it was connected to work. It was all how I wanted to experience life.
Okay.
So that led to me starting to get rid of things, because I knew I had to detach from the things that held me on to creating the first ideal day scenario. So I let go of, oh my God, all my trophies. And the older I get, Nikki, the heavier those trophies became. And so I just had boxes of trophies that I never looked at. But I was so attached to that identity and to those things that once I released it.
Whoa. Wait a minute. Because you're gonna make me tear up. You were so attached to things used to be your identity.
Absolutely.
That is so interesting, because during COVID, I also realized how we ourselves can cause self to be stuck, because ego is real. It is very real. I don't care. It's not about humility. Ego is real, meaning there are places that we've been celebrated and you can get stuck there. It can continue to be as a magnet to draw you there because of those emotions and those real feelings. However, those are over time, they don't lose their significance, but they become shallow victories because we cheat to use that to fill in the blanks for today, because we've been so stuck there without even knowing we're stuck there.
Without question. And we don't stretch because we're comfortable in that space.
Back to what you said earlier, continuing to learn, that's work.
It's so much work. And the discovery of all of this, and what led me here, is there's so much more that I have to give. There's so much more in terms of giftedness and talent and ideas that I have beyond what I was doing. And not that what I was doing was bad or wrong, but I knew, and we all have that knowing that there is, when there's more, and know when you aren't fully playing all out in what you're capable of, because this one space is comfortable and because people need you in that space. And people calling on you to be what you've always been can be great if it's in alignment, but when you know it's time for something else, then you're shortchanging, right? And so at that point, I knew that everything had to change. Everything. So, I got rid of everything, and fast forward to December of 2020, the world finally opened back up, and I came to visit friends who had been living in Medellin for years. but the timing, I never came to visit. But because of the journey that I was on of releasing things, I came to visit them. And when I visited them, I booked my flight back before I left. I knew that this was where I was supposed to be at this time because I felt it. I'd already seen the mountains. I'd already seen the palm trees. I'd already felt the warm weather. I'd already gone on the walks in my mind and my heart at the local coffee shops and to get the fruit from the, like, it was alignment. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's what led me here. And that's what led to the PR agency, which has been amazing to be able to just focus on this business.
So you get there, you already know that this is home for this season.
Yes.
And I'm very, very sensitive to seasons since COVID. Like it's done something different for me. Because a lot of times we think we have to make a decision and lock in. Because I know I had a relative ask me, well, it started off with a compliment. I'm so proud of you. You're doing so many great things. And then it was doing so many things. Are you gonna like settle down and pick one? And I had to share that I've picked them all. It's just a matter of how they play out seasons. And Absolutely. At the end of that conversation, it was like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. But people will box you or get you to also doubt what you've been called to do. And I'm so thankful that you shared, a little bit of this journey. Because one, I understand that, from some of our past conversations, this wasn't just an easy thing because it's big. This is bigger than you. You have parents. You're in that sandwich generation, as I am, to where we're taking care. We're doing our life. Building. We have other family members under us, but then we have our parents that we're taking care of as well. So we're sandwiched in, which impacts all of our decisions. Yes. Because we care. But for you to get to this point, and you. The fact of giving up everything.
Yeah.
What was that process like? Because, okay, the trophies, they do represent a part of your life. Like, how are you just there's so much under that statement because those are weights.
Yes, literally.
But what did it mean for you? What did it mean for you?
It was a massive amount of release, and I did it with someone. So I didn't do it alone. None of this happened alone. And what's critical, the learning that I had is that you have to ask for help. You cannot do everything on your own. You don't have the capacity. And when you try, it's just going to burn you out. And other people actually want to help you, right? I think oftentimes, I'll speak in my I voice. So growing up as an athlete, like you just push, right? You just push and you can do it. And although you're on a team, athletics is a culture of it's all about me, very much so. When your stats and your accomplishments. And so that was so deeply ingrained in my being that I had to literally become someone who asked for help, someone who valued the opinions of others, someone who knew that you have to rely on others. And so I had a friend who we wrote down every award, right? Like every MVP, everything. We took a picture of it. And then she threw them away because I didn't have the heart. But I couldn't do it physically. So she did it for me. But I don't even miss it, right? Like I never looked in the box for something that I thought was so important, just doesn't matter. And I know that it can be recreated. You can go to a trophy shop. So I'm saying this to say a lot of things we hold on to physically hold us down. But if we can allow ourselves to release them, then what opens up in our mind and our heart is more creativity and more opportunities for other things.
Wow. And then to this activity, before we move forward,
yes,
to the work that you're doing with A.L.A, which I think is just absolutely phenomenal. The activity of writing down, and power of the pen and the paper. I am I went through the activity of purging from paper, but there is still a process when it comes to writing out dreams and writing out. There's something about writing it out that fills not just your cup, but that fills your soul, that actually causes you to commit in a different way.
Yes.
By actually writing it. And you took the time with this activity to write out your ideal day. I cannot shake that, because it reminds me of when I ask people when they're like, oh my gosh, I want to be successful. And I'm like, but what is success? Define that for you, for me. And I end every show saying to live it out as you define it. And people are stumped by that question, because we have this superficial idea of what it is, or one that belongs to Angela. That's not Nikki's formula, nor is it my approach, nor is it even my desire. But you can find yourself chasing something, and I'm talking, hunting it down, and it's not even for you. But having this clarity to even talk about your idea day, so you're backing up into
Yes.
this life, but you have to be ready to be honest.
That is the most important part. Honesty is the great mirror that reflects you to yourself, and it is the most challenging work that you'll do. But the practice of honesty, then it becomes easier as you practice, right? It depends on how long you haven't been honest with yourself. And other people can help you, right? Oftentimes we can't see ourselves. And so if you're blessed enough to have people in your life that love you, who are willing to be honest with you, and your heart is open to receiving their perspectives, then you get there a lot faster.
And you mentioned also the fact that you have had to do the work to get over that athletic mentality in regards to, like, yes, it's about team, it's about operation, but it is about me.
Yep.
And so how hard was that? That's a huge transition. Although you're in the midst of making that transition, doing it for others. But for you, what was the hardest thing in that transition?
Well, it's, again, being honest that I don't know everything, right? And I know it seems simple, but for someone who has felt like they've always been a high achiever, who've always done well, when you being humble enough to say, you actually need help in this area. You need help, and you need people who've been there and been down that path who can help you. And so that's been, whether it's with business, whether it's, with communication, in multiple areas of my life, because what I see moving forward and who I want to be, not what I want to accomplish, because what I accomplish is going to be the byproduct. And what we accomplish as a team is going to be the byproduct of who I'm being. Then that is way more important than my ego. Way more important. Like, I know what we're capable of. I know who we have to be for our clients and the level of commitment that we have to have. And so whatever I thought was important isn't. What's most important is how I show up and my willingness to make sure that we're doing everything possible to accomplish our goals collectively.
And what's so beautiful too is, for me, having experienced part of a journey with you, and to see how, like, the shift and the maturity, the maturation process lived out on both sides, to where it's like timing really is everything. And to everything that's great, there is a process. And we don't want to go through the process, or we want to pick the parts of the process that we actually go through, or we're timing it.
Right. Oh,
but we don't get to choose that.
Yeah.
Oh, that sense of urgency, I think that society has embedded in us. There is a level of urgency in regards to committing to, like, okay, this is the thing. Let's do but we need to do the work, this thing, and have this thing come to manifestation. And moving from, like, ideation to actual execution, if I'm going to use my academic language. And so while that is the case, oftentimes, we're not wanting to go through that process, is what I'm hearing you say. Like, I did my part. I had my season. I had to come back down a little bit to come back up. But just think, had you not gone through even just the past 2 years, how you show up now and the why you show up now, it would be totally different.
It would be. It would be. And sometimes we forget that about the cycles. Everything has a season and a cycle. But if we can focus on the long game, I was perpetual on focusing on now. I have to write this book. I have to get this. I have to do this. I have to do that. And those who knew me before this moment, like who were really, I was really high strung, super like stressed all the time, and didn't have the ability to create boundaries. And so to know that, all right, if we're going to build a sustainable business, if we're going to build something that really, really serves people, then I have to have calm. I have to be able to understand that we're thinking long. And every time something happens, it doesn't knock us off. It's like, okay, here's where we stand. We've committed to doing this work. We're committed to being this way. And because of that, we can do this with excellence. And it's okay. We're going to lose some people along the way, but we're going to get better every single time for the long game, not because we have to have it all right now.
I reflect on over COVID, like I've always been, had a hidden foodie inside of me. But it's really present since COVID, but not only just the food, I really enjoy cooking and understanding that the best cooking is, from the earth, from the sea, fresh, the good stuff, how it has effect on the body. But to get there is a process.
Yes.
Like yes, we go into the store, whatever your place of choice is, and you go through that fresh produce area and it looks all pretty. It's all stacked up. We see the colors and the leafy greens and all that different stuff. But there's a process that happens for me to get outcome. I don't even see that, but that process includes heat. It includes rain. It includes planting, harvesting, going out to nurture. Like, it doesn't have, like, some of the stuff that we're benefiting from today was planted even before COVID, over 2 years ago. And we're just now being able, and even, if you have spirit of choice, that goes through is lemonade, or if it is white Zinfandel, there is a process that has to happen for us to get it to the table with our ice or our chilled glass, right?
Yes.
It's the same thing that I hear you loud and clear. Trust the process.
That's it. Trust the process and trust the people who've gone before, who love you. So here, I had a conversation with a friend and we were talking about, like, what is love? It's helping, sharing, and protecting. So when we look around, who are the people that are protecting, helping, and sharing with me?
Wow.
And what are they saying? And if they really, if they're doing that, then I value their opinions. And it's okay that it's different from mine. And it doesn't have to be right, but it's going to make you better. Yeah. And they've already walked the path. And so I think, if nothing else, the process doesn't have to be alone. You have to do your own work. You have to be open. But the process that you go through, whether it's to build a business or to become a better partner or to be a better person, ultimately is what we're talking about. It's like who you are as a person. Everything else is a byproduct. Your relationships, your business, is a byproduct of who you are as a person. The process that you go through is not one that you go through alone, because we can't grow in the way that we need to grow without the presence of others.
Yeah, I love that. And so that brings us to the shift.
Yes.
You've done the work on the inside, which is beautifully radiating on the outside. And now you have established a community around you. Again, not just state efforts, but this is now shifted and into a global front that ALA Public Relations has now come into full flourishing. And I am so excited about the work that you're doing. Tell us about ALA PR and what you're doing. What's the goal? And then I know you've got a couple tips for us.
Absolutely. So A.L.A. Public Relations works with coaches, consultants, and experts to help them go on podcast tour. On their podcast tour, they generate new leads, they expand their brands, and they really get to show their expertise around their unique perspectives in their industry. And years ago, I had a podcast, and my background is communication. And so I have a lot of respect and love for hosts and understand the importance of great conversations. And I have a lot of love and respect for people who are creating opportunities to transform other people's lives. And so to be able to connect the two, these transformational people who are so passionate about their work with people who want to have conversations with dynamic leaders, it is a win-win all around. We know that there are over 2 million podcasts now, and there is a significant need for people to make that connection. And so we do that, and we make sure that our clients don't have to worry about reaching out and doing all the research and follow up. We do all of that for them. And
Wonderful.
So, to use kind of basketball terms, we set them up for assist, right? So we're assisting in the process, and we're part of their team to make sure that they get the exposure that they deserve.
Wonderful. Now you have, I love it because it was something that it's not like, oh, this is a new idea, something I just want to pop. But again, back to the process and the journey. Yeah. You've walked this out yourself, an athlete, as an author, as a coach. So you have all these different points of views when it comes to the big picture of the work and those who you are serving. And then also just the strategy that comes even from the court into this space, which is so cool. But I know one thing that you mentioned is that everyone needs a team. Why is it so important?
Why is the team so important?
Yes. Because
you can't do it all, and you can operate in your greatness if you're able to focus on one thing and other people are able to focus on theirs. So for example, we have a team as well. This is not the ENG show by any means. Yeah. A.L.A. Public Relations, a limitless approach. It's not the ENG Lewis show. We have an incredible team. Marielle, Andrea, Myra. We have a few more people we're onboarding soon who are great at different aspects of the business, right? We have super organized people. And so we need a team because you can go further with a team. There's a saying, go fast. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go with others. And so what we're able to do together is significantly more valuable than what any individual can do alone.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I know we had in our private time of conversation leading up to this moment, we were talking about some tips and tricks, which this being a classroom, we always want to leave our listeners and our nick of timers with some things that they needed in the nick of time to get them further. You had talked about the power of connecting and sharing your story. And that's coming from a personal place, right?
Yes, personal.
Go ahead.
So it's from a personal place because the people that you work for and with want to know who you are and want to know that they can trust you and want to know that you're going to be honest with them. From a business perspective, people want to understand the brand of your business and the story of why your business matters. For us, we believe that there are dynamic people who are creating transformation who deserve to have their story shared. That's at the core of why we connect people to share their stories. And we want to help them expand and grow. And so we go on tour for a year so that they can expand their business, share their stories, and we get to help them be a part of that.
And part of that help is like the communicating the story, because oftentimes as artists, authors, creators, innovators, everything is in our heart and it is in our head. But to communicate that out, you're not only just getting them positioned with opportunities, but you're equipping your clients, which is something that I think is very good, because a lot of times it is more transactional. What is it you're needing? Okay, we'll get you there. But that back to the process that has to have middle, not ready. Yeah, everybody's not ready yet, not immediately. What are you doing? What's A.L.A. uniquely position themselves to assist their clients?
There's two big things that we do differently. The first thing is, which we just launched formally this month, we have monthly client trainings. So this month, we'll talk about how to maximize, like the 5 ways to maximize your interview. So how do we use that content? How do you share your message beyond your initial interview? The other thing is I have one-on-one calls every month with every client. So I'm listening to their concerns, I'm able to give feedback on interviews. For example, I have one client who interview I listened to, and the very first question the host asked her, she spoke for 3 minutes. She went on for 3 minutes and we had a conversation around, it's okay to have a story that you start with that gives a preview of what's to come, because the host is going to ask more questions. That's the second thing. And then the third thing we do is we have a list of similes, metaphors, quotes that we give so that our clients can have creative ways to explain who they are, and when they're on interviews, kind of illustrate their stories.
Okay. Wonderful. It's so interesting because there's an art to all of this.
Yes.
That oftentimes people who've not had enough in it, it's like, oh, put me on, I'm ready to talk. And it's like, but you have to understand this is still representing your brand.
Absolutely.
It's not establishing it, right?
And I think part of what happens is the professionals make it look easy. Yeah. So if for basketball, for example, if you look at Steph Curry, you watch him shoot threes, you watch him dribble, and he makes it look very, very easy. But if you go out there and try to do that, you realize it's not going to happen without hours and hours and hours of practice. And his father was a professional. So not only did he put in the work, he learned and was trained by professionals. And that makes a difference in really how good you can become.
Yeah. And you mentioned getting individuals prepared. I love the fact that you even have the quotes and some one-liners for your clients to even, and it's not so much take that away and use it for themselves, but to give them some type of context in regards to, because again, you can come on these platforms and you can share, but sometimes you don't even realize the emotions that are going on while you're sitting and talking to someone. And sometimes that conversation time is like 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
What is it that you want to, what impact do you want to leave? What message do you want? What call of action do you want to happen? Every time I'm on, it's a different experience. I promise you it's a different experience. But I take it from the point of like, literally it's a classroom. And it took me years to realize, a couple years in of doing this, to realize that was part of my why. Like, why am we doing? We're not doing this just for entertainment or just to be a talk head. No, there was a need, and more people were asking different things about. I get asked all the time about being a mentor, and me asking, well, what does mentor mean for you? What does let's unpack. But then also I'm like, okay, this opportunity came up. Here's a great way to serve as a mentor, not just me, because I don't know, I know little, but I know some amazing people. So let me get an Angela Lewis to come on and share her experience, because it's the lived experiences also that I'm now realizing there's so much value. There's so many lessons. And so that covenant exchange in regards to how we come together and that trust, vulnerability is there for us to be able to share. But you have to coach that, but you can't, and I always say you can't give what you don't have. You can't lead where you've not been.
True. So true. So true. All of that. We all need mentors, and we all need people who have walked the path, who have done the work. And if we're open, we can grow so much faster with that guidance. And so we take a lot of pride in that. And as we continue to grow, we'll continue to do more of that work.
And then you have, you talked about the tips to prepare for great interviews, but also how to speak more clear, concise, and confidentially.
Yes.
What high level lesson or nugget do you want to leave from that space?
So from the how to prepare for great interviews and how to speak more confidently, clearly, and concise. The first thing is you have to practice what you want to say. The second thing is prior to your interviews, be sure to check all of your setup. I mean, before we got on today, we were like, okay, check the lighting, check the positioning of everything, because if anything feels out of order, then it impacts the energy that you bring to the interview.
That is true.
Mm-hmm. The third thing in prepping and understanding the conversation, it's so important to listen to previous interviews. I know so many people are like, no, I'm just ready. I mean, just turn on the lights and turn on the camera and I'll be ready. But you need to understand the cadence of the host who you're talking to. You need to understand like the energy of the show, because that really helps you prepare to have a great interview, because you're dancing. You know, interviews are a dance, to use a metaphor, right?
Yeah, it is.
So it's not a monologue or a performance. Is actually a dance. Those are the conversations that we love to hear most, where there's a rhythm and a flow. And then the last thing I would say is it's really important to decide how you want to show up in terms of the look. Now, I'm not a branding person, but I know that the more intentional that you can be with how you physically show up is going to impact the level of confidence that you have. And so when I put on this head wrap, I sat up a little straighter because of what it means to wear a head wrap. But this aligns with who I am at my core. And so be really intentional about the way that you show up, because it's going to impact the way that you exude your confidence.
Yeah, that's good. And speaking of confidence, what has been the most proudest moment, I think, in getting you to this point with A.L.A? As an owner of, like, it's a transition into a new space. However, it's not a new space. It's just that you have now shifted. It's not, you booking your, creating your book tour,
Right.
Going to be the guest coach for a Nike camp. Like, you've shifted that to where now you're coming to do it for. What has been the biggest lesson you've so far in launching?
The biggest lesson so far is there's a need, and you just keep going. You just keep going. I think the proudest moments is when I received a selfie from one of my clients who was prepping for an interview, and she had just finished her makeup, and she was so excited. And she said, I understand what we're building. I understand what we're building, and I know that we're planting the seeds, and I know what's gonna become of this. I can feel it. I was nervous at first, but to see her growth and her excitement, and to know that she understands the process and knows what's gonna come out of this process, that's what I'm most proud of, is to have that happen consistently.
And then you have this space, and I know oftentimes I will wait, procrastinate, will halt, pause because I'm wanting everything to be in place. But you don't know what needs to be in place until you actually do it.
Exactly.
What has been what has caused you to push past all of that?
What's caused me to push past all of that is thinking long. I have a 10-year outlook for ALA.
Wow.
It's 10 years. And so I know that every little thing gets us a little bit better, and that every client that says yes, we get to be a little better now than we were when the person who started a year ago. And I've seen us evolve, and we listen every time something happens that works or something that doesn't work. We listen and take note, and then we get a little better. We try to communicate better. We're constantly being aware of what's happening in the podcast market space, and we partner. And so that is what helps us continue to not worry about being perfect, because I know that 10 years from now, when we're doing this work, it's going to look different, but we'll be better than we are now. It's the same for sport. I remember, and honestly, Nikki, I think about this so much when I'm having tough days, because those happen. I remember not being able to make a left-handed layup. I'm right-handed. Like, left-hand layups were so hard. I remember missing all of my shots, but I also remember shooting nearly 50% from the field my senior year in college.
Yeah.
So I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to progress and get better. And I'm on this journey for that.
I love the fact that you already have a 10-year. So you have this near-term work that you're working on, but then there's the long-term, the 10-year, that will consist process happening to get to that year. Give us just a foretaste, like what's in this 10-year, because that's a very interesting number that you chose. But what could possibly be in the 10-year?
And so in the 10-year, what I see is our team growing. I see us working with clients all over the world who speak multiple different languages. Right now, all of our clients are US based. Obviously, I'm in Medellin, Colombia. Our team is all Colombian, who are incredible. I work with some consultants in the US, some people I've known for a while in the PR space, but we have a dynamic team. And so we have an opportunity. If we do this well, and we can develop leaders, now we have an opportunity to open up into global markets doing the same type of work. I envision us, in addition to podcasting, being able to add social media to our services. So being able to maybe partner with other businesses or buy other businesses and merge to provide additional services. We have clients who need websites. Right now, it's not a service we provide, but clients who always need websites. So I see us being able to add and be an all-inclusive PR agency, which is why we're A.L.A. Public Relations, a limitless approach, because we really have the vision of being able to bring in clients and manage the fullness of what they need to share their stories, build their brands.
Right. Absolutely love this. And thank you for sharing, some of this behind the stuff behind the curtain. What's interesting is that you have niched down to provide a service in excellence.
Yes.
But then while we're doing this niche approach, we're still working on the long-term goal.
Absolutely.
But then finding ways to connect with partners. But you are in a very unique space, because while you're leading this initiative in this Colombia, but most happening in the States. But then I'm sure whether it's from individuals from the States or from Colombia, there are also representation throughout other places in the world. What an interesting dynamic. It's usually like flips.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It is. It's a gift. I'm so grateful. So, so grateful
Okay.
to be able to have a global lens on my business
Yeah.
and to be engaging in business globally with a team of just incredible, incredible young women. And that's, as we talked earlier about coaching and working with young women, that's been my passion for years. And to do it in the business context versus sport, there's a lot of responsibility to make sure that we're focusing on excellence now, but also keeping the long-term goals in the forefront and making sure we have the mentors and supports and advisors to help us get there.
Yeah, that is just so smart because we want to do, and that's part of what holds us up from moving forward and having progress. Because you've talked about learning from mistakes a number of times during our time together, and that's why I asked that question, what made you push past? Because we do really think we have to have everything in place. I believe you need to have a framework and community and partners to kind of help along the way, because you won't know everything. And because stuff is, as we have witnessed with the pandemic that affected the whole world at the same time, like things can change so fast that's beyond our control, but through those relationships and a plan, but still having the agency and the agility to be flexible.
Yes.
And okay.
Well, to your point, I was listening to The Lean Startup, right? Classic book around how startups can grow. And one of the tenets of the book is constant testing. They use a more technical term,
what's the book again?
The Lean Startup.
The Lean Startup.
The Lean Startup. It came out years ago, and I was listening to it recently, and there's this idea that you're always testing to see what can work. So, for example, what we did 6 months ago, 3 months ago, we do things just a little different. The service hasn't changed, but we're always figuring out, okay, how can we get a little better? Do we make tweaks to these interview preparation docs for our clients? So one client asked, well, can you send me more information ahead of scheduling the interview so that I know the interview is coming? Well, of course, now we're better for everyone. So we're constantly listening to what clients are asking. Even our monthly meetup was an idea of one of the clients.
Okay.
Because I connected two clients. They were both dynamic educators, both authors. A year ago, they connected. And just last month, they were flown out to Portland together to talk at this men's retreat for fathers.
Oh.
One is in Chicago, one is in the St. Louis area. And
but
so
you connected. Yeah.
They have like missions and purpose. And so we're now doing these client meetups because we saw the success of that. So who knows what can become when more of these connections are made. And so I'm just really excited because we will keep getting better. We will keep tweaking. We're going to keep listening to make sure that our clients have the best opportunities to reach their goals.
Wow, this is amazing. You have to promise to come back as things evolve. Please come back. But as you are moving forward, and you've done like so much over in somewhat a short period of time, but I think that only became because of the process and all the work and lived experiences prior. And then you find yourself in this space giving birth to this idea that was there and bubbling. It's just, there was a shift. You now have the platform to communicate to individuals who are looking to make a shift, to purge, to be honest with themselves as they enter something new, because it's intimidating to shift into something that is new territory. You may be strong in one area, but there's always going to be areas that you're not. What one lesson you have the platform to give the world a mentoring moment in the nick of time? What would that be? What would you say?
I would say Instead of focusing on what you want to do, consider how you want to be. Because the being is what will give you the outcome that you want. So decide, have clarity around what you want. Great. So I want to have a global PR agency that works with clients holistically who speak different languages, right? So we're going to be a multilingual PR agency that works with clients holistically. Okay, that's the vision. So then what are the skills that we have to stack on top of that that will allow us to get to that goal? What are the skills and who do we have to be for those skills for us to master those skills? Yeah. So one, we have to be patient. Two, we have to be able to listen. We have to build relationships. So relationship building is important. So in order to build relationships, let's go with that skill, because it is a skill. If we're going to build authentic relationships with dynamic experts and authentic relationships with hosts and PR professionals, we have to be consistent. Right. We have to do what we say we're going to do. We have to be willing to listen and then implement what we were asked to make their experience better. And we have to have advisors and mentors who are far ahead in different aspects of the business. And so, but we can't do all that now. So the one thing we're going to commit to doing today is we're going to do what we said we were going to do. We're going to live in that integrity. And when that just becomes second nature, then we can move on to the next skill of being. But we're not going to get there trying to do it all now. And so my advice is get a clarity around what you want your next move to be, and decide how you have to be in order to get there.
I love it. That was so clear. And I know earlier you even mentioned something being so simple, but it seems like the simple is what trips us up, because those things are critical to the process and the outcome, sustainable outcomes, as you said.
Yes.
Sustainable outcomes, not just outcomes, but those things that will help you focus on those near-term goals, but also being very clear and working towards that long-term, 10-year, 20-year, because we're not just doing this just to do it, but I'm very sensitive to the meaning of legacy these days.
Yes.
And it's, in that life, while we are here, what are we going to be responsible for doing well and giving back to this world? And that work that starts with these steps. I love your niche down. I love that lean approach. And to some, it may seem slow, but slow and steady is what wins the race, right? And you get to show up ready to continue and not be exhausted and burnt out. We just came off of that, right? Before COVID. So
we did. Understand. And you know what happens, Nikki? The confidence that you build. It's like, for me, everything goes back to basketball, just because it's where I spent the majority of my life in courts. But I know what it feels like to get up and go in the gym at 6 a.m., to be the only one in the gym with the lights off, and you're doing ball handling drills. And you do these same drills over and over and over. And the same thing with business. Every time I have a conversation, I'll get back to you by whatever day or time you get back to that person. And then it just builds your confidence, because you know that you're going to execute on what you said you're going to execute on. So then you can take on bigger things, and you understand what it takes to make things happen with yourself and with your team. And so that's really our work.
Wow, this is amazing. Yes, gotta be a part 2. Where can we learn more about Angela Lewis and A.L.A. Public Relations?
I would love to connect with any of your listeners, Nikki. And so our website is alapublicrelations.com. Contact me if you want the list. We have the list of the similes, metaphors, and quotes if you want that. Or if you want to have a consultation to see if podcast booking is right for you, contact me and we'll be happy to get you that information. On Instagram, Angela Lewis _PR. That's my personal Instagram page. And then our company page is A.L.A. Public Relations. So on Instagram, you can see our past clients and hear some of the interviews that we've had.
Wow, Angela Lewis, thank you so much, founder, owner behind A.L.A. Public Relations. Out of, I had to do my little pronunciation, Medellin, Colombia, serving clients all over the world. Thank you so much for the jewels you've provided us with today. I want to also thank each and every one of you for giving us your ear and your heart to lean into this conversation. Now you have something that has been placed in your hands to take action, to go and do well and live out success as you define it in the days to come. Actually, starting now. I want to thank also Sparkman Publications, Jubilee, KSTL 690 AM, and Covenant Exchange LLC for their continued support and sponsorship for this platform. I am your host, Nikki Roach. Make sure you visit us at nikkiroach.com to learn more information about the show, but also how you